Well, good morning and welcome to another exciting episode of Bass Fishing HQ. Today we are getting out on the water, hauling the boat. The only bad thing is that my engine's not working, all right? So I literally have to put the boat in the lake and just use the trolling motor, which is basically gonna kind of suck, but I'm still gonna be out on the water. So anyways, very excited to get out. It is basically the last 2 days have been the first major cold front of the fall. The lake that we are getting to is a smallmouth lake. So a lot of times this triggers some of those bigger fish to start feeding up. So I'm pretty excited to get out. I'm thinking this morning we're gonna start out with some topwater, or maybe even a Ned rig. I know that a Ned rig is not something that you would expect to throw in the fall, but these smallmouth feed up on not only baitfish but a lot of crawfish this time of year, because the crawfish start to get very active, and when they get active, the smallmouth start feeding on them. So I'm hoping to catch a few and start to see what it is they're feeding on, then I can kind of go from there. So hopefully the fish will speak to me. Anyways, I'll see you out there in about now. You guys catching a few this morning?
Yeah, few nice brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good. They taste good.
yeah, they do taste good.
Got him. Finally. Ain't a big one, but I'll start with it. I sure will. Ooh, he's got a weird looking eye. Oh gosh. Starting first thing this morning on a pretty shallow flat. It's only like 3 foot deep here, and ooh, nice blid. Only about 3 foot deep. That's the first little 12-inch keeper. I'll take it for a high. Ooh, a big old carp. You know what that tells me? Absolutely nothing. Now, flats can come in all shapes and sizes. They can be great big giant flats, they can be just little tiny flats. But the thing is that flats just straight hold fish this time of the year. Right here, we're coming up into just a tiny little flat. All it really is a small pocket, and I know just from being here before that it basically comes out about 4 foot deep and then drops off, and there's just the flat. There's a little shelf right there, and fish can hold up here. This is a perfect spot too because it's just on the inside of a major creek, so fish that are coming in and out of the creeks will stage on this flat, whether they're going in, whether they're coming out. Perfect little spot. Let's try to catch us a big old bass right here. Well, that's pretty much fishing though. We started out early, catching a fish pretty quick. Thought it was a deal. And really, we've only hit a few areas, so I think that's the thing about fishing, is that some people give up sometimes. I've seen it so many times. I fish a ton of tournaments. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I fish a ton of tournaments, you know. Can't you tell? But no, seriously, I fish a lot of tournaments, And I find out a lot of times that you're on the right, you know, you get a clue. You catch a fish on a flat, you run 3 or 4 of them, you don't catch any more. And then guess what happens? The tournament's won with some guy fishing flats. And sometimes you get a clue and you think it's a fluke, but if you just continue to kind of persevere through it, you might find that winning stretch. And I've seen that so many times. But at the same time, it's fishing. So sometimes you just gotta fish. Like right now, I'm just covering water. We're coming up on another little flat area. But in the meantime, I'm gonna fish this little point just because it looks good. There he is. Oh gosh. Oh. There he is. Man, he crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. It's another nice fish on the flat. You just got to cover a lot of them sometimes. I know it's not a giant fish, but for this lake that we're on, it's a pretty decent fish. And I'd love to have them in a tournament. So again, you got to find those flats, those shallow flats. These fish are feeding up. Sometimes you just got to fish a bunch. We fished 4 or 5 today, but finally got us another nice fish. Woo! Nice little keeper smallie on the Ned rig. Again, not a giant, but it's a keeper here on this lake. Keepers are always good. Let's see if there's another. There's another fish. Feels pretty dang small. Yeah. Next cast, another little guy. You know, it's always super important to pay attention when you're bass fishing. Been out here throwing a topwater and a jerkbait a lot. The sun's starting to come up, and I had a fish follow my jerkbait in. I made about 2 casts with a Ned rig and caught a fish, and now I've caught another one since then. So although they're not big, that's the type of things in tournaments that really make a difference. You know, just paying attention. I could have just kept on going with the jerk bait, left that area, but because you slow down, sometimes you pick up those extra couple of fish, extra couple of keepers, and it tells you something. Maybe those fish are starting to get related a little bit more towards the bottom. Maybe they're wanting something a little bit slower. Oh, there was another bite. So without a doubt, fishing flats can be extremely productive. Definitely in the fall, but it can be productive year round. Literally from the spawn to midsummer. Midsummer and late summer are some of my favorite times actually to fish flats. And again, you're looking for bait fish on those flats. But definitely in the fall, it seems that more bait fish are moving shallow. They're in that shallower water, and you're gonna find a lot of fish in there. So regardless of whether you're fishing you know, rock flats or grass flats, there's a few baits that I really like to stick to when I'm kind of trying to figure out if the fish are actually there. The first one, as you know, what we were throwing mostly today is a topwater bait of some sort. You know, I tend to like a topwater bait, either a walking style, like a Zara spook or a Sammy style bait, because you're gonna be able to cover water a lot faster than you would if you're fishing a flat with like a pop-R, you know, for instance. Now, not saying a pop-R wouldn't work, but if you find, you're able to find fish a little bit faster with a spook. And when it comes to tournament fishing, that's what you want to do. You want to find fish fast, and then once you find them, you can slow down. And another great bait to find fish fast on flats is a jerk bait. You know, I really like it when I'm fishing, again, both grass or rock flats. Grass flats in particular, but you know, even if it's a smallmouth or it's a largemouth, some sort of jerk bait is really going to be able to cover water fast. And the two things that the one thing that I really like about those two baits, both the topwater and the jerk bait, is they both have what I would say is a drawing power, right? They can draw fish from a ways away, you know, especially in clear water. So you're able to cover an area a little bit faster and a little bit more efficient. That's the thing that I really like about jerk baits and topwaters. They have that drawing power, so you can cover a flat real quick. And even if they're not biting those particular baits, if they're not on the jerk bait, if they're not on the topwater, usually you're gonna have some followers. So regardless, if you have some followers, you start to see some fish follow your bait, that's when it's important to possibly change up your baits to something a little bit slower, because guess what? You found some fish, now it's time to catch them. So that happened to me today. You know, I've been fishing a topwater mostly in the morning, switched over to a jerk bait, and I had a fish follow that jerk bait in. And what I did was I switched over to the good old, where is it? The good old Ned rig. You know, and I started fan casting that area, and what I found is there was a little rock pile that fish had followed my jerk bait from, and I was able to cast back with a Ned rig, and I actually caught 2 fish off that particular place. So a jerk bait, a topwater, great for finding those areas, but then you can slow down with, you know, a Ned rig, a drop shot. You know, if you're fishing for a largemouth, it could be some sort of Texas rig worm, a jig, something like that. But regardless, I love covering water with a jerk bait, a topwater. It's gonna find fish quick. Once you find them, then you can soak in a slower bait, a slower presentation of some sort.